stage. We're doing this thing. So if you are here for the All the Subs panel, How to Dominate Your Readers, you're in the right place. I stole that from Rose. She said she was going to do the sub joke, and I was like, okay, well, let's see if I can beat you to it. I know, that's right. I get to roll initiative with the band, which is great. So I'm James Hunter. I'm an author. I've written some books, but not as good or as many as most people here. I'm looking at Seth. He's giving me those sexy eyes. Seth is the person who intimidates me the most on the panel because he's so good at everything, and he has like more kids than me, so I don't even have like an excuse for why he's good. It's disgusting how talented he is. But we're here at the LitRPG panel. We're going over all the subgenres. There's like a million like super basic LitRPG panels here, which is great because there's a lot of people that don't know about the genre. I kind of want to get into the nuance because LitRPG has grown so much over the past couple of years, and it's branched. So a lot of people who are new to the genre are like, okay, so it's just like a video game thing, right? It's like, kinda. I mean, but now there's like dungeon core and post-apocalyptic, and how does cultivation fit into this thing? And so that's kind of what we're going to dig into. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the tropes. I know that's another panel, but I'm interested to see how those tropes play in different genres. So I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves. We'll start here with KT, or Katie. She's Australian. It sounds the same. We probably need subtitles for her, honestly. It's terrible to talk. And then we'll just go down from there.
Okay, so I'm going to be really careful and not swear much because it's not late. It's very, this is effort, you understand.
That doesn't stop Regina from knowing.
Yes. So, my name is Katie Hanna. I've been writing in the genre since 2018. I have Somnia Online, which is a virtual reality one. And I have a virtual system of Buffalo, Australia, Taiwan, and I've got my new one, Library System Reset Overdue.
It's so good, y'all. It's like crazy good, and the audiobook is incredible.
Well, it doesn't hit any tropes.
It's so good to have you on this panel, and you burst with expertise and wisdom. I love that about you.
It's a little bit of few tropes. Anyway, I love this series. I love this genre. I met my husband playing an MMO in 2005 at Quest 2, and now I live in Kansas. So he was worth it. He's awesome. But yeah, so this is like my thing. I'll shut up now.
Jeffrey, what do you got?
Hi guys, I'm Jeffrey Falcon Logue. I've been writing in the genre since 2016. I primarily work with Dungeon Core, so like the original Slime Dungeon here, and then all the brilliant people who've written in the subgenre after, including James. I've also written the Bio Dungeon, which is like Osmosis Jones or Inner Space, depending on your generation, combined with Dungeons and Dragons, and currently working on a giant robot apocalypse, AI main character, and a dark urban fantasy.
He also does woodworking. I'm not joking about this. He makes like amazing cheese platter charcuterie boards. It's like a whole thing. He's at the Shadow Alley Press booth with us, so come ask him about his charcuterie boards. It's an incredible thing. I love that. I mean, I love his books, but like his charcuterie boards. Top-notch, next level. Yeah, it's good.
Also the video game, I forgot.
And yeah, he's a man of many talents.
So I write cultivation-esque. Yeah, you don't need to know my name. This is Mantis. I write Path of Ascension. It's cultivation-esque. It's LitRPG light, I tell you. I kind of fall between the genres, which is probably why I'm here. I stumbled into writing because of COVID and what a break, and then I kind of got successful and I jumped ship. Here we are.
I'm Rose. I'm a switch, but I came today as a sub, and I'm very This is my joke.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. It's vanilla. I write this team spicier shit than the Dallas game. LitRPG is awesome. It's just a different magic system. That's what it comes down to. But it's just like, a world where things can be different outside of reality. That's all it is. So it's super fun. It's fantasy.
My name is Seth. I started writing in 2018, or started publishing in 2018. I have a bunch of different series. I really like LitRPG. It took over my life in 2013. I started reading cultivation novels, and that led into all sorts of other stuff. And then I realized that I had stopped reading anything else. I just was reading LitRPG, and I think that's a pretty common experience. Am I not close enough to my microphone? Hey! Okay, so my name is Seth.
Okay, that's some older, baby. I'm getting hot buns.
Yeah, so
I'm not vanilla.
yeah, so since LitRPG took over my life, I decided to just dedicate my life to it. And so I've read 35 books in the last few years, and continue to do that. But I write Battle Mage Farmer,
It's disgusting.
it's a which is just a bunch of different subgenres mashed together, and everything I write is really just a bunch of different subgenres smashed together. So I love talking about this subject.
Well, thank you to all of our panelists for being here, except Seth, because again, he makes me feel inadequate about myself and my worth as a human. But we're going to jump in right in the beginning with like virtual reality LitRPG, because this was the thing that started it all. But over the years, like the pendulum has swung wildly away from that, and it seems like even though a lot of people who are new to the genre are like, oh, all right, LitRPG, it's going to be VR, and I'm like, please don't. Oh no, sweet summer child, don't do that. Why? So why do you think that is? Why do you think there's been this huge sort of paradigm shift in the genre and in the market away from kind of the VR stuff? And we'll start with Seth. We'll work back this way.
So I started with VR. So my first series, the Titan series, it's about a young man who's 8 foot 9 inches tall in the real world playing a video game, a full immersion virtual reality video game, and exploring that world. By the end of the series, I mean halfway through the series, I saw sort of the writing on the wall because people were starting to shift away from VR. And I think it has to do with stakes. It's really hard to build good stakes in a game where you can respawn. And so everybody was sort of, all the authors who were writing in VR were finding convoluted ways to increase the stakes. And so that's why you get the like, if you die in the game, you die in real life. But you can only read so many of those books before you're looking for something new. And I think because a lot of authors were readers first, like we came into this because we really loved the genre, we were also looking for something new, right? We were writing this thing and repeating it over and over again. And so I think the subgenre still lives on in a lot of ways, but in mutated forms, which is one of my favorite things about LitRPG, because no matter what subgenre you're writing, you can find a variation or a twist on it that people will still really enjoy.
Yeah, I love that. Rose?
Seth took all the good answers.
Yeah.
I'm going to add one thing. Our readership does not like setting shifting so much, or POV shifting. And so when you go from this like realistic T-Rex murdering world to like, and then I woke up and had a cup of Joe, and you're like, So you have, if you write VR, you have to make it matter. You can still do it. It's just kind of walking uphill. I also did my first in VR and learned my lesson.
Out of curiosity, Rose, do you think, like, so if the pendulum is swung this way, do you think that there is a point in time when it will swing back? Because people are going to stop writing it at some point, and do you think that readers will get hungry for it again, or do you think this is just like this is kind of a dead thing, we've moved past it?
Great follow-up, James. I think that when this genre blows up and gets more mainstream, which it kind of is, newbies are going to keep wanting VR first because that's what makes sense, right? Like Ready Player One kind of vibe. But then they'll be like, I want something more. We got it.
Yeah. So real quick, I'm gonna kind of bounce this along since we're talking about that, because one of the other things that I've seen a lot of over the past couple of years is kind of the shift away from needing an explanation for the system at all. Like in the early days of LitRPG, nobody knew what it was, so you had to have a reason for the thing to exist, which is why I think there were so many VR books. But now it seems like, no, it's a world, there's magic, and the magic is numbers. Why do you think the shift, Chris or Mantis, do you want to tackle that, why this is a shift, and how that affects your writing, or where you see that going?
So I took a alternative take to it. I looked at LitRPG and I saw all these issues. I saw the issues people had with making a VR world and making it interesting, and then making a game is hard. Writing about a game is also hard because you either have super special, unique main characters, you get super rare class that would never exist in like any kind of MMO. Sorry, and balance patches, and you're not pulling items out of the game for millions of dollars because megacorps are investing in this random video game. It doesn't make much sense. And I looked at all that and I was like, okay. Then you have your LitRPG world where just magic is magic, and it takes the form of this system. Instead of wizards, you have classes. And I said, well, what if we didn't have a system at all? And then I was like, oh, that's just a cultivation novel. But I framed my cultivation novel in the style of a LitRPG. So there's dungeons, which are just little instance rifts. You have monsters, which give essence, which is just EXP. And I did that because, well, I saw the writing on the wall, and I was like, well, I don't know how to solve any of these issues. So like, yeah, I'm just going to avoid them by slight genre jumping and trope dodging, because it's very hard. Like, if you're doing a VR game, the game needs to be interesting. If you're doing a real world, then you have another world that needs to have some plot relevance. Is your main character poor? Okay, well that's going to be solved by the end of book 1. Now what is his motivation? It's hard. That's why disconnecting from Earth and the baseline can sometimes be a little easier. You can set up your peasant farmer in medieval England might care about something, but magical peasant farmer in not England isn't going to necessarily care about the same things, and let you twist a little bit.
Yeah, love that. Jeffrey, you have any thoughts on any of these things?
Back in my day.
Like legit, one of the earliest American LitRPG writers, so that's not a joke. He's been doing it a hot minute.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to kind of bring up a little bit of the history, because 2016 and a couple of years before that, it's an entirely different world. Like Kindle, for instance, was only started in the 2010s.
Right.
The origin of LitRPG came from the Russian authors. Way of the Shaman.
That was my first one.
Yeah.
From the Japan world.
Play to Live by Dean Russ. Yeah.
And then also Japan and Korea had their own sort of versions of that, coincidentally, or not. I haven't, Sword Art Online, and then Legendary Moonlight Sculptor. And honestly, that one, I think, was kind of the starting point for a lot, because how many people here know Royal Road Legends? Like they,
Yeah. There it is.
like they had a good start as a translation group for Legendary Moonlight Sculptor, and they transitioned into letting people type and make their own stories on their site, and they're a big thing today. I got started on Royal Road, and my original book was with VR, Hero of Not. I published that much later, and it wasn't as successful, but that got me started. And a lot of that stuff just didn't exist here on the west side of things. We're the ones who sort of paved the way since then. And Amazon has allowed us to spread with Kindle, and sites like Smashwords and stuff have allowed indie people to write. So we've kind of risen up with indie authors and the prolification, whatever.
That's right.
Of the media in
So
general.
good. Yeah.
Like we see Free Guy, for instance. That's a fun movie. Ready Player One, the book. I think we're still paving the way as it goes.
That's great. And KT, you started with VR as well, so kind of like why?
So I've read a heap of VR, and I met my husband in computer games. This for me is like, hell yes!
This was your first answer.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was like so excited, but there were no stakes for me, because you can't have a game if it's just a game and have it have stakes. And that was a huge problem for me. So in these books, if you haven't read it, I'm sorry. But in these books, like, my virtual world is bleeding into the real world. Because I was like, I need stakes.
Yeah.
I need there to be a reason why we give a crap about this game. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so that, you know, and I feel like it went from being like, well, yeah, we can read a game, you know, because for a lot of us, I don't know, I don't have 16 hours to play a game anymore, sadly. So I'll just read them instead.
It was like a highlight reel of the best campaign you've ever played, right? I mean, that's what it was.
So like for me, that's what got me into the genre, was that instead of spending all this time playing games, and I also have a child at the time, so I still do.
I'm so glad you cleared on that part. I've been in a really awkward conversation.
Yeah, so for me, it was more like I wanted to experience the games without playing the games, but I wanted to have stakes and mean something. Whereas, you know, I logged out of the game and went to work. I don't care. So there's like there was a line that we had to create, and so at first it started being that there was an impact and then you die, and then people were like, how about we just not game it? How about we just make it hit the world? How about we just make it them get isekai into a world? How about? And so I feel like that's why the genre evolves. So I feel like there's still a bit of a place for the virtual realities, but
Slice of life. Like so.
Yeah. Yeah, we will get there, I promise. Because I feel like the slice of life and the rise of serialization has really changed the way we do books. So we will absolutely get there for sure. I want to offer a counterpoint real quick, because one of the things that almost everyone has said is, yeah, VR sucks because there's no stakes. I totally get that. Counterpoint is overpowered MCs with flat character arcs. And I know that's more of a trope than it is necessarily a sub, but it's so interesting to me because that's the number one complaint that most people have with VR. It's like, well, yeah, I don't have to worry about the character. You know, if you respawn, it doesn't death doesn't really matter. But like some of the most successful books currently in the genre and over the past 3 years are characters who are so ridiculously OP that you're like, oh no, I mean, I think I got this ribbon, my plot armor has plot armor. I mean, that's like most of, there's a huge swath of MCs that are that way. Again, they have very flat character arcs. So flat character arc is like James Bond. James Bond doesn't really change. Indiana Jones doesn't really change. Like they just kind of do the thing that they do. There's not a lot of character growth. And people like that. So I guess that's kind of my question is, how do you reconcile this thing that generally is considered terrible writing, to have an OP MC with basically zero conflict with books that are so beloved? And we'll start on this side and go that way. So, KT?
I don't think I've read any that just a flat character arc, but I mean, they are super overpowered, but they just get more overpowered. But most of them get the crap kicked out of them in the process. Most of them get the crap kicked out of them in the process of becoming more and more overpowered. So, I think everybody will agree that Jason and He Who Fights with Monsters, while he freaking is ridiculously godlike now, he wasn't for a long time. He was just a little crazy, and he would just get into, he would just do the shit that needed to be done. So I feel like a lot of the characters do that. And so I wouldn't agree that they're all flat arcs. I would agree, I would say that they might get a little more psycho the more they go on, but they're willing to just throw themselves into this and really hope they can do it, because otherwise they're dead.
Yeah.
But then they get growth from that in power. Then they power up and get over 9,000, whatever. So, yeah.
I'm just going to kind of pitch this to the panel. Is there anyone who feels very passionately about OP MCs? Yes. Oh, I'm so bad. I'm just angry right now, and which is good because let's talk about Battle Mage. OP MC, and this was one of the things that amazed me about Battle Mage, is because usually in LitRPG or progression fantasy, you really have to have a character who like Katie was saying, starts weak and gets strong, and you're like, no. I am the strongest man on the planet. I will be a farmer. If you mess with my farm, I will murder you with fire because I am a god. Right? So how did you act? So let's talk about the OPMC.
Sure. So it's interesting because I started with VR, and then I went to OPMC flat character arc, right? But I think that when we talk about stakes, we're not just talking about threat to life. So one of the problems with a video game is that relationship stakes are different than real life relationship stakes. So if you have two people who are romantically involved in the real world, if there is conflict in their relationship, it's going to be potentially devastating, right? The stakes in that are very high. That's why romance works as a genre. If you're in a video game and you have conflict with another person in the video game about something in the video game, it's so hard to make those stakes significant. Because the person can just go and log off. They can go and play somewhere else. They can do something else. There isn't in video games, there isn't naturally a finite amount of resources, right? People are playing their own game, even if they're playing with other people. And so there's an isolating effect that happens when you play a video game. So you can have an OPMC with a flat character arc, and then introduce all sorts of problems for them that have nothing to do with their ability to punch or burn something down with fire. And so you can create characters that have that high level of stakes, but are not, because their context is not low stakes sort of base, right? If a character as strong as John from Battle Mage Farmer was in a video game, and it was actually a video game, then everybody else could just be like, well, I'm just not gonna log on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go do something else. I'm gonna go play my own game somewhere else, or I'm gonna go play a different game, right? But the fact that his problems are with the people around him and how he feels, and really his problem is how he feels about himself and finding his place in the world, that allows me to build really high stakes in a genre or in a subgenre, because I would say that OPMC is sort of a subgenre.
Subgenre is a trope.
I think the line bleeds, and I think it is turned into a subgenre. But I can do that, or I can have Thorn from Fort. All I write is OPMC. By the way, that's all I write. That's my favorite genre.
I mean, in your defense, because I love Battle Mage Farmer, and I usually don't love like super OPMCs because to me they feel boring. It's like, there's no conflict in this. But you have like the One Punch Man methodology of character development. Where it's like, okay, well now you can't punch crops and make them grow faster, so deal with that. And you have to make these crops grow, or the world is going to end. So I mean, you do a good job with creating problems that cannot be solved by his power set. So Jeffrey, you had some strong thoughts about OPMCs. Is that right, or was it somebody else? Okay, what do you got?
Honestly, this would have been a great transition into Dungeon Core, but we'll put that aside.
All right. I will work on my segues. I appreciate the feedback.
So, there is a manhwa that I really enjoy right now. It is called 99 Plus Reinforced Stint. So I'm seeing some people reacting here. And the 99 Plus Reinforced Stick, honestly, it has the OPMC, but it sells itself on comedy, especially the facial expressions. But also, not only things happening to the person, but things happening to the people around the person. Like the idea of you can't save the world by yourself if you're not there to save it. And then, if you're going with an OPMC, you have to frame the story around the idea. If you have a person become an OPMC, then that's when you deal with pacing issues in your writing, I feel. That was a reason why Dungeon Core was so difficult at the beginning to write, amongst some other stuff. But either everything took forever to get to, or you're strong and nothing else matters anymore.
Yeah.
So the story, I like stories with them, but they're not some stuff I want to read all the time because it takes a little out of the hero's journey.
Yeah.
But it's its own cycle trope, I would call it.
Mantis or Rose, what do you think readers who like OPMC stories, like what do you think they derive from it? What's the source of that satisfaction?
It's badass.
That's it.
Okay, anyone seen like Once Upon a Time in China? Like kung fu films are all based on that, where like you got like a young Jet Li or Donnie Yen, depending on what you're watching, like if you watch a good one. And almost said that in the book. Bro doesn't get touched until he fights the boss at the end, and he gets like a thing, and he's like, you get this, like a, and then you're like, oh shit, he's gonna do it now. And then he busts down, and then, and then you're like, oh god. So it's just epic.
So it's just the rule of cool, you think, and people are just like, yeah, that's so cool.
Sometimes you just want to beat shit up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at things like John Wick, blew up. It was a John Wick 1, the first movie, should never have been popular. Just if you described it in an elevator pitch, you'd be like, this is boring as hell. No, I wouldn't enjoy it. But it's well done and it's well executed. But there's never a question that John Wick is the scariest dude in the story. He's the villain. He's the scary guy. He's the one everybody cowers from. But a problem happened and he has to solve it. It's not a question about if he can solve it. It's a question of how he solves it, and if, like in his case, if he returns to the assassin world, whatever, because he got out, he doesn't want to do it, and it's a personal, deliberate choice of jumping back in the pool. And OPMC is kind of like that, because it's how you frame your story and your character. If you're on a hero's journey, if there is a problem to solve, an OPMC is kind of not the best answer, because 99 level dragon flies to the end, fries the bad guy, and it's over in 15 minutes. That's not interesting. If you have an OPMC and it's a character story, and it's character driven, and you're reading for their adventures or their experiences, or even the One Punch Man, the experience of the people around them, how they uplift everybody, it's something different. And that's how you get away with an OPMC. I have kind of had to go into that because it's a cultivation novel. Cultivation novels get ridiculous.
You're going to punch God. I mean, every cultivation novel is I'm going to train until I can punch God right in the teeth,
and then
that's
you find
it.
there's a god who's stronger than that other god,
Always.
and then it's
That's training.
It's Dragon Ball Z.
yeah, it's turtles on turtles. But my main character starts out weak, but I introduce the end game from not chapter 1, but book 1. You have level 50 people basically who can obliterate universes with a single punch. And I set my upper bound, but as my main character gets closer to that, you have to well, how do you have stakes? And my answer was, oh, he's super special, but there are other super special people that there's only a couple in the whole universe, but they're kind of friends, but they're also willing to beat each other to death because, well, they're maniacs. And then you have to but your problems change. When you get so strong that it's either an overwhelming loss or an overwhelming victory, and there's nothing really in between, your plot points need to change. Currently my characters they're becoming nobles. So now they have thousands of planets to rule, and they kind of have to learn how to do that after just punching things. And it shifts the stakes, and people are surprisingly really enjoying it. I thought people would hate this. Yeah, exactly. You can't punch taxes very effectively. You can try, but the government wants its money, and even a fantasy government still wants its money. So you have to kind of shift what is interesting about your story if you're going to have an OPMC. It's not your typical, there's a problem to solve. Aragon couldn't be solved by an OPMC, the story would be boring. Or would be solved by an OPMC, the story would be boring. Lord of the Rings would be boring if it was, you had some level 99 mage who would just teleport, smash the ring with his hand because he's that strong. And that's not interesting. You got to shift your goalposts a little bit, or recognize it. Trying to mismatch your character with your novel is where you're going to have dissonance from.
So since we're kind of talking about cultivation, I think that's important to touch on, because cultivation and progression fantasy is not LitRPG. Definitively it's not. True progression fantasy, it doesn't have numbers. Numbers got to go up, and cultivation doesn't have that, and yet there is so much overlap between these two groups of people. There are definitely people that are no, I only read LitRPG, or no, I only read progression fantasy. But largely, the Venn diagram is pretty dang close to a circle. I mean, not a complete circle, but it's close. So, let's talk about that. What's sort of the difference? Why the rise of cultivation? Because it kind of feels like it rose organically alongside LitRPG, and then they just sort of converged. So, Rose, let's start with you, and just what is cultivation? Why is it the rise? Why is it appealing to people? Why do some people like it more than LitRPG? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, cultivation's been around for longer than I've been an avid reader in that genre, for sure. I got my start with Kung Fu films, which I feel is just the same thing, honestly. It has a ton of the same tropes and it's very similar, but I'm not a believer in the LitRPG being the big umbrella. That just doesn't make sense. Progression fantasy just encapsulates everything genre-wise. That's just how I see it. There's really good online fights that are old. You should never them. They're funny. Poke some of the big people, they get so mad. But yeah, I just think that there's like so much room to play within both, and it just depends on how you format things when it comes down to it, and the tropes that you're working with. But even LitRPG is just like a child of like web novels and Korean and Chinese and Japanese translations, and so that all is cultivation, right? It's wuxia or dungeon, and yeah, it's really cool stuff. I love it. I like to do in mine where I like epic fantasy tropes too, and Western fantasy a lot, but then I'll try to smash it together as best I can because there's really good fusion to happen there. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeffrey, what do you got?
I would say that it's an interesting sort of mix of cultures. It's why these things really sort of cross all over the place. Like we have the classic Dragon Ball Z kind of thing. I would call that cultivation. But you also have on the other side Dungeons and Dragons, which is technically, you could call that cultivation. You could also call that leveling up. You could say that to the other side as well. It's the same idea in different presented ways of understanding, like the Superman versus Goku. Also talking about overpowered protagonists. And it's the melding, it's which tropes that you choose that help determine what subgenre you're writing in. Like if you picked overpowered protagonists, and if you pick the numbers game, you might get Dungeon Core. Or you could pick Slice of Life and Cultivation, and you could get there we go, Beware Chicken, thank you.
I was like, casual fun. Shit, chicken. It's a rooster on the cover, okay?
So I really think that it's this wonderful mesh of Eastern and Western culture that's giving us that.
What are some of the tropes that you see almost exclusively in cultivation that you don't necessarily see as much of in LitRPG?
Death of a master.
I was going to say.
But it gets me every time where I get the goosebumps and the cries, the master has to step out, run, seeks, refuge and get stronger in the mountains. And then you see the master just like fucking get broken.
I will say one thing. No, you're fine. That is a good example. And this is tangentially related to, especially in your Asian cultivation novels, whether they be Chinese or even Korean or most of them are Chinese, but I don't want to, not all of them are, but in every one you will see one person offends me, my son offends me, then the father comes, then he has a stronger brother, then he has a stronger uncle, and then in the end you're annihilating like 10 million people from this clan because population numbers just are inflated. But like 10 million people died because one generation son of a noble clan like farted in the MC's direction, and now like, 1 million people have died, and that is so prevalent in especially the Chinese cultivation novels and they have justifications for it, but it's like face slapping and like I'm a better young master.
The arrogant young master.
Yeah, it's huge in the Chinese one, and I personally enjoy it. I don't write that because like it's so hard to make realistic and work. But like for those novels, because they don't take themselves too seriously, but you see that all the time. I would argue every single cultivation novel happens in some way once, but you almost never see that in a LitRPG, and it just doesn't exist. Call it Western morals or sensibilities, but they just.
We don't have blood feuds between
you just won't see that. And also,
well, we're in the South.
That's right. I know from McCoy's. That's the cultivation novel I want to see. Yeah.
But just on your comment, like Beware Chicken makes fun of all that too.
Yeah, Beware Chicken's self-aware to a degree, and that's kind of why it's fun. But yeah, the Chinese ones will have a little. I don't want to say they're more bloodthirsty, but.
Yeah,
big numbers.
That's super fair.
It's their version of numbers go up.
Yeah.
In this case, it's just corpses, right? It's just,
the same flavor cultivation, because I write cultivation. I looked at LitRPG, and I said, how do I make this without a system, a magical thing to just enforce the rules? And my answer is basically, it's a cultivation. It looks like a LitRPG card, but the engine is cultivation. And like all my background stuff is pure cultivation novel stuff. That's why my next novel is going to be cultivation. I did too much work, and nobody's seeing any of it, so now you're going to have to see it from the next time I write. But it's like you said, numbers go up in a slightly different, you put a different coat on them, and it's the same body though. That's why I think they blend a lot, and you see mixes, or you see people conflating the two.
It's still characters like progressing in a tangible, predictable way, and so which is kind of the buzz that you get from that.
I forgot to say, it's all RPG. It's what it all is.
Yeah.
It's the role play of becoming stronger in whatever thing you choose.
Katie, you got any thoughts on cultivation?
It's like the wrong question. For me,
It's
it's like the wrong question.
Like, no, I hate all of them. They're
No,
terrible.
I will read the books, but I don't, my brain is like, I don't understand what it is. And every time people have tried to explain it to me, I'm like, I'm just going to read the books. So I love reading them, but my brain doesn't.
You need the numbers. You need the framework of the math.
No, I love reading the books. I don't need the math to read them,
But
but
to
I
write
wouldn't be
them.
able to write one because I'd be like, what am I doing? How do I make this work?
Nascent stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, no, I like tables. I have a lot of spreadsheets.
A lot of spreadsheets. Something that's coming. Oh yeah, go ahead.
That's okay. I think an interesting difference between LitRPG and cultivation is in cultivation, the point is that the main character becomes more aware of their place in the universe and more connected to everything around them. And in LitRPG, and really in every Western story, it's about, or progression fantasy, it's about the main character becoming distinct and separate from everything around.
Dude, that's
So
the
there are
best
two-
explanation
This
I
is
have
what I'm
had.
talking about, guys. Like casual wisdom for the ages. Like, oh, I'm gonna add a little thing that'll shake your worldview on reading. Oh, that's sad.
You're bringing up the Tao here?
Yeah,
No, that's
what-
Eastern
That's
versus
great.
Western
It's so
fashion.
smart.
two different philosophies. I get stronger by becoming part of everything, or I get stronger by becoming distinct.
And we can relate this also to Judeo-Christian versus like
Yeah, absolutely.
religious structures.
I mean, that's where,
That'd be
especially
crazy.
cultivation
That'd be
comes
crazy.
from.
Yeah.
Cultivation is very Confucian, Buddhist related.
Right.
Especially the
Yeah.
earliest novels.
And that tends to be more community oriented, where in the West, like we're much more individually oriented, less family oriented. So you get away from the blood feuds and the connection to communities. That's a great
Can we
point.
just have another hour to just keep talking about it?
All right, no, we have to. There's so many things. The genre has grown so much. Something that's been mentioned a bunch of times. Beware of chicken, things like casual farmer or radical fishing, like all these sort of slice of life. Jay Boyce, who has like all of her stuff is slice of life and is really, really well done. How has the rise of online serial fiction changed the way it sort of moved us in that direction of more slice of life stuff? Because I see this correlation of the rise of Royal Road and the serialized fiction, like breaking the normal way that we have traditionally written books, which is like, okay, we have the 3-act structure and we have the A, B, C plot, and we have the beginning, we have the rising action, we have the climax. And I see less and less of that, especially in this genre. Why do you think that is? Why are readers enjoying that? And just because I cannot do it, how do you write slice of life? I do not understand it. I'm like, so just things happen? Like it's not like but there's not an overarching plot, like but things just happen. I do not understand it. So yeah, anyone who has thoughts on this, please jump in.
So this book was supposed to be cozy,
How
but
from
it's
you?
not. And then it was supposed to be slice of life, and it's sort of kind of a little bit is, because it's very, so it's kind of like every little thing that happens and gets done, because it's important to the story. Like, you need to know exactly what she's doing at this time to know why 30 chapters down the line, she's going to do this, this, and this. So slice of life is like, to me, it's like an involved, like you're involved in the character's life, and that's the story.
It's like she's speaking Australian again. I don't get it.
I'll try.
You try. You try.
So,
Okay.
have you ever heard of Stardew Valley?
Yeah, another game that I will not play because I do like, but where are the things that I need to kill with my power? I know.
Animal Crossing,
Yeah,
Stardew
also,
Valley,
again,
Minecraft.
Not, yeah, my kids, I can't, I'm
See?
like, but so I'm just
See?
gonna dig a hole? Like, I just, is that, I'm gonna build this hole in the ground? That's the thing I'm gonna do? I don't, so anyway, but please, go on.
Well, it's to live the casual fantasy. With not, you don't always have to be the hero saving the world. Sometimes you want to be able to have a house and a family.
So do you guys think that's what the appeal is of the slice of life thing? Is just kind of like books without stakes or very low stakes?
It's
Is that you?
Yeah.
Escapism without stress.
Yeah, I think it is comfort food.
Yeah.
But I think that the stakes exist, and they're often even, like, they're really important and they're severe, but they're important in that they will disrupt the good that exists. And so when you have, Battle Age Farmer it starts as sort of slice of life farming, and then stops being slice of life farming because I was like, no, we need to move. But the whole point is to maintain the good, and so you want to show your characters doing it. They're in the same way that a good revenge story is cathartic for the person who's reading it. A good slice of life story is cathartic for the person who's reading it. It's probably something they're lacking in life, right? Having that peace or that ability to stop for a moment and feel joy in what they're doing in whatever mundane thing it is. That's something I think all humans want.
So it's like, you think it's like wish fulfillment almost.
I think it's wish fulfillment. In the same way that a power fantasy is wish fulfillment, I think slice of life is wish fulfillment.
Interesting. Yeah, Rose.
Also, like, every book is comfort food. Like Jane Austen, you could call slice of life, but she's better than all of us. And so it's like, what is a book and what is fiction, and what's like, do you need to kill stuff to make it a book? No. So slice of life isn't like popcorn. It's just, for people who like murder. Yeah, it's popcorn. I don't want to read it as much, even though it shows up in my books.
Unless it's Pride and Prejudice and zombies. It's not.
No, it was so
thing.
good. Whatever, that was sick. There's a bunch of hot chicks killing things in like Austinian, whatever. That was fire.
So it's comfort food, it's this wish fulfillment. I love all of that. Do you think that the rise of like the forever novel, especially with like the Patreon model, right?
My
Sorry.
point was that's one way to look at it, but
Okay.
it's also not simple, and it's also not like less than.
I don't think it's less than. It's baffling to me. And it's obviously really popular and it's fulfilling like a deep hunger in the marketplace.
Plots are social. Like, that's the stake. It's not just about murder. Like, someone might or might not get their love. Someone might or might not succeed in their business, right? Or they're building a house and it leaks and shit, so they don't want to get that.
So the stakes are just that they're smaller, more localized, more personal, as opposed to like global stakes.
The world is smaller.
Yeah.
Satisfaction of completing a task perfectly. Like watching those TikToks of people paint a wall perfectly in the lines without any tape. That's
It's like Swipe Power Washer Simulator, so popular.
Chris, you look like you have something
I
like that.
made a comment about Royal Road and
Yeah.
Patreon, like enabling this, and it does, because look at publishing. You have series of, like Jim Butcher has 1,000 books, but he didn't release those 1 week at a time in one continuous blob. Like,
Yeah.
sure, you might be able to cut it into books. Like, I try to write into books, and then I go to my publisher and I'm like, hey, this is like 400K words. They're like, yeah, find a way to cut that in half. And I'm like, When you write for a book, it definitely changes things.
Yeah, 400,000 words is so big you can't print it. That's a problem.
They were like, go back and cut that in half. But like, when you write for a book, it changes things. Like, I can take a full chapter, which is 5,000 words, and I can have my characters go on a date. I don't do this often, but I have the word space to do that. Show that they're still like in love. They're a married couple, but it's not just murder monsters. They have real personalities and they have hobbies and they have quirks. When you can't, it's harder at least to do that in a traditional novel format. There's a
Or
lot-
90,000 words, and you have to get the story in there.
Every word counts. I can spend 5,000 words because I'm writing for Patreon and Royal Road specifically, and then it goes to Audible and Amazon as like a secondary thing. That's not my focus, so I don't care so much. Because like I had one beta reader who was constantly like, "This doesn't need to happen. This doesn't need to happen. It's not plot relevant. We need to, this whole chapter can be cut." And I was just like, "That's not the story I'm trying to write here. Like I'm okay with spending an extra chapter,
Like letting it breathe.
Exactly. When if you're writing traditional hard, it's hard. So I think it would be much harder if you were constrained to a book format, especially a trilogy or anything like that, to get the
With like hard deadlines for word count, like okay, no, 110, that's the top.
It would lose what makes it magical, which is spending time with a character, growing to like them, and enjoying their struggles and their victories. It would be so much harder, I would dare say impossible, in the same way to have it without the weekly-esque model.
No, that's great.
I think this speaks to why LitRPG is so popular and is continuing to grow popular. In the publishing space, for a lot of practical reasons, really, really tight writing has become the norm. Mm-hmm. And that's what's taught, and that's what editors are looking for.
Right.
That's what, if you submit a novel to a publisher, more often than not, they're going to come back and say, you have to tighten, you have to trim, rather than you have to add. And I think that it creates a particular kind of pacing that sells really well to people who want that hurried pace of a book.
That breakneck, can't put it down,
Right.
page turner, right?
Yeah, and they want that because those are the books that people rave about when in the traditional model. But I think that readers often don't want that because it mirrors real life too closely. And so LitRPG has allowed for a looser style of writing. Web serials have allowed for a looser style of writing that can include those slice of life moments, even in an action story. And so actually anime does this very same thing where there are moments in the story, moments of pacing where you'll have still images that don't have action in them. And the point is to give the story a moment to breathe before you get back into it, right? And it's something that that readers or viewers actually really appreciate.
Love that.
And
Okay, so we're coming down to 10 minutes, so I want to leave a little time for questions. We haven't talked about Dungeon Core. We haven't talked about Dungeon Core because Jeffrey's up here. So we're going to do Dungeon Core right now. So Jeffrey, why is Dungeon Core? What is Dungeon Core for those who might not know? And
The dungeon is the main character.
Why is it popular, and why do you think people
I have no idea.
enjoy it? I love how succinct that was. You're saving us a lot of time, and I appreciate that.
People love DMs.
Yes.
The forever DM, yeah.
It's an interesting question I pondered on because even though I consider myself the first published Dungeon Core, I don't consider myself the first Dungeon Core. There were a lot of them written on Royal Road, but they never reached completion due to the pacing issue. And then of course Dungeons
Yeah, they're hard. They're really hard to pace because you're like, you don't have any of the tools of a normal, like the characters can't go places, they don't really have agency because like they always have to be reactive, so it is really challenging to write them.
Yeah, with the Dungeon Core being a sentient location, you can't go on a hero journey, right? The idea is either the protagonist leaves home or a stranger comes to town, the classics. The other problem is monologue versus dialogue. That's why I had to include originally the Dungeon Pixie as just a source of dialogue bouncing. And then also, how does it affect the world around it? It's fun being the Dungeon Master, and the problem is, for anybody who's ever been a Dungeon Master, you can't keep track of everything. Mm-hmm. And it's not interesting if you know everything, because at that point, you're just playing God. So I think the fun of Dungeon Core comes from the idea of control, I think, of being able to design your monsters, having that sort of Pokemon-ish part to it, and also environmental hazards, designing your space, controlling your space. But it's, because of the unique challenges, it's, I think, the genre or subgenre that's the most easiest to get out of. Like if you make the main character mobile, for instance.
Right.
It's a small thing, and it's still dungeon, but I'm not sure it's dungeon core anymore. But it still makes a really good story.
Yeah, this is one of the things, because like Dungeon Core never blew up in the way that like post-apocalypse LitRPG did, or Isekai LitRPG did. But it's held really steady. Like it's one of the oldest staples of the genre, and there's still good books coming out, but far less than what are in other areas of the market. And I think because it's hard to write. The barrier of entry for Dungeon Core is a lot higher because of all of those writing challenges that you just don't have in Slice of Life, like literally anything else. And I think that makes it a challenge. Anyone else have any Dungeon Core thoughts? I love Dungeon Core. Do you have like a favorite? Slime Dungeon by Jeffrey is what I'm from Seth. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left. Again, I can just talk forever, but I would love to leave room for some questions. So let's go right here to Purple Mask.
Hi. So we were talking about Slice of Life and sort of the pacing issues. I grew up on Tribe Club Slice of Life, and sort of I'm wondering, do you see any was there like a discontinuity? I grew up on Tribe Club Slice of Life, specifically Modsit, Medesset, the Recluse books, and the Corellian Chronicles and stuff like that. And I was wondering, do you feel like that was sort of a subgenre that there's a through line and any influence on Slice of Life in Prog Fantasy and LitRPG? Is it just sort of convergent evolution?
Thoughts? Anybody?
I don't know what those are.
I think anime has more of a direct impact.
Yeah,
There's just
anime
like a ton of
definitely,
cutesy, cozy stuff. Like even like Sword Art Online, which is arguably GameLit or LitRPG, but like a ton of the arc is just them like walking near the lake, and then you get those painful they're just like so low, and it's like, wow. And I was like, I need to skip this shit. A lot of people go there for that, right? Because it's cozy, because it's like very located in a setting. So.
Yeah.
As someone new to the genre, what books would you recommend as an introduction?
Everybody loves Arch Chess.
Disregard that suggestion. That is advanced level of LitRPG. Don't start with that one.
The actual answer would be go on Amazon. Look down the bestsellers. They're bestsellers for a reason. They're going to be easier to get into and probably more palatable. Once you get through those and you start craving more and you get the little itches, then you're going to go down a little farther and you're going to get a little worse, and you'll find me if you go down far enough. That's when you know you've hit rock bottom and you should probably just seek help.
No, I'm rock bottom, literally.
Shadow Alley Press has a booth in the vendor cell, 2820. Lots of good LitRPG there. I want to do more questions, but I also want to leave time for everyone to say what you're working on and where these fine folks can find you. So let's start with Katie. What are you working on? What do you want to promote? Where can people find you?
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook. You can find me. Oh, you mean here?
Where?
Okay.
No,
So,
on Facebook
I'm
or
on
Amazon.
Facebook, and I'm trying to start a TikTok. It's not very good. But this is my second book in my library, even for me, library system reset. That is kind of a little bit cozy, a little bit slice of life, a little bit action. So yeah, but it's about a magical library that is broken, which makes it really easy to do system notifications because it's broken. Yeah, this comes out in 11 days on the 10th of September in ebook form and print. Audio comes out on October 15th, and voilà.
It's amazing.
Let's see, I am being hosted very graciously by Shadow Alley Press again. I'm selling my beloved dungeon stuff that I brought with me. I have a book that will be published as soon as I get home, the third in my sci-fi, Sentient Evil Babylon 5 Dungeon. And then on Royal...
What's that one called?
SCCDE Definitive Extract.
All right.
And then on Royal Road, I have 2 that I'm going to finish very soon. Mecha Dungeon Apocalypse. Giant robots AI is the main character. And The World Ruled by Monsters, which is my first foray into dark urban fantasy that I will be looking for an agent and publisher for. I'm so excited I got 3 cover arts already.
You can find me on Real Road or Amazon. That's about it. I don't have a social media presence. Thank you. Yeah, I'm on Discord. If you get that far, well, you deserve. You can add me on the Discord. I talk in there, but yeah, I can't be bothered with Facebook and all that. It's more effort than I have to give.
Just let you write down.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Definitely. Yes. Without a doubt. Not YouTube Shorts. So.
Rose?
I am on Facebook. Look up at TJ Author or whatever. Amazon too, and all the other places. I'm working on book 3 of this and a new series, Remnant Mage, that should be coming out in a couple months. Travis is going to read that. Travis Colliers, it's exciting.
So good. Another guy who gives me terrible imposter syndrome, that Travis. Well, I'm just going to be the best narrator in the world, and then simultaneously release a book that's going to like break the internet. Oh, that guy, he's so good.
This is my
I'm sorry. I love you, Rose. She's the best. You should go buy her
This book
things.
is currently on sale, and if someone wants it, I'll sign this one and give it away after. Yeah. Love y'all.
Tiger Seth, Raymond. But you can stop by the Athon booth on the 3rd floor of American Bar. And I don't know what number it is.
3,500.
Level 2. It's
No,
level
it's
2.
level 3.
Building 2.
Building 2.
Yeah, because you're on
We're on 2.
2, and then come up 1 level.
No, I'm not gonna.
3. There are a bunch of good books
Same
there. A lot of people citing.
I'm James Hunter. You can find me on Amazon, on Audible, on all of the social medias. Also Shadow Alley Press. I run Shadow Alley with my wife Jeanette. We're in the America's Mark. It's not just me. We have a bunch of Shadow Alley authors. I'm Timothy Cultivator. Bob Standard Isekai is there. We have tons of great authors. So if you're looking for your next favorite LitRPG or cultivation read, come check us out. I'm also on Royal Road. I have a new book, Discount Dan. If you're kind of like in the DCC vibe, you like that, this will be up your alley. That's all on Royal Road, and I have DragonCon exclusive editions that you cannot get literally anywhere because it's not out, that we printed just for DragonCon, so if you come by the booth, you can buy them. I also have 8 to give away here. So please come by and see us, America's Mark, Building 2, 2820 in the back. It's great. Thank you all to the panelists for being here.